Let me ask you a question, Steven.
Yes.
When did you see the first X-Men movie when it came out?
I want to say the first X-Men movie I ever saw was X1
Yeah, like
in
the
like
first one.
2002, was that? I think?
2000.
Or 2000, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, seeing Wolverine's claws come out for the first time was just amazing seeing that.
Yeah.
And then about a decade later, they go from cartoony CG claws that, what the hell were they thinking? Okay, so I know this is an awkward intro, but we didn't have much anything funny to say at the beginning. So,
Yeah.
anyway, hi, welcome to EndCreditReviews. This is Tyler from EndCreditReviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
And today we have a double feature review. We're not just reviewing one movie as usual, but we are reviewing two movies this time around.
Two!
Two?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our review on X-Men Origins Wolverine and The Wolverine.
I always call X-Men Origins Wolverine X-Men Oranges Tangerine.
Yeah, the sausage party version of it. X-Men Origins Wolverine is a prequel movie. I don't understand why Nostalgia Critic put this in his top 11 worst sequels of all time if it's a prequel, so it shouldn't even count.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I agree. I don't I don't want to spoil what we think on it quite yet, but
Yeah.
I definitely think it doesn't qualify as one of the worst, especially if it's like top 10 or 11, because there, are how many Jaws remakes, how many,
Well, sequels.
yeah, but like how many Halloween, how
Yeah.
many, yeah, there are so many in the horror genre that
The
alone
Final
could take it.
Destination.
Yeah, that genre alone could take so much of it.
Well, I think just the fourth one I thought was terrible.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, X-Men Origins Wolverine is a prequel about the origin story of Wolverine, aka Logan, played by Hugh Jackman, of course. And we follow his brother Sabretooth, aka Victor Creed, played by Liev Schomburg. And I like the intro to this movie where it shows a montage of them fighting in wars that America was involved in. Like we see the Civil War, then World War One, World War Two, and then it ends with them in like Vietnam. I figured, okay, that was a really cool intro, but sadly the movie kind of goes downhill after that. They eventually get captured and they get interrogated by a guy named Stryker, played by Danny Hudson, to join a group of X-Men. I think it's Task Force. No, that's DC. Task Force X, I think.
Gotcha.
But that's DC. I mean, that'd be kind of confusing if it's Marvel with X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So then this group of mutants is formed, and Wolverine's like, no, he just crossed the line, he can't do it. So he leaves them. He goes to his life in Canada, where he's living with this one woman, played by Lynn Collins. And apparently, Sabretooth is killing other people, and I guess it's up to him to try to get revenge on Sabretooth. And then they inject him with adamantium claws, and kind of the rest from there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this movie had a lot of problems. I mean, I remember when this movie was leaked online, people were saying that the cut to this movie, like, it was a rough editorial cut.
Yeah.
And, like, the effects weren't finished all the way, and it was kind of like, eh. I mean, some people even joked that the special effects in this movie didn't look that much better than the leaked version that was put online.
Yeah, my friend Josh has, I think, that whole thing on his computer, and he even edited a version that is, he argues, better than the actual movie, and it's pretty funny just to see, Hugh Jackman on strings doing these things on a set with a lot of green in the background, and yeah,
That's a lot of movies. But
yeah, it basically is, but this one looked particularly interesting because, of the shapes that the green was and stuff. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing about it is the CG claws. I mean, the claws in the other X-Men movies were practical effects, which was awesome, and that looked real and convincing. But here it looks cartoony, and it's like, okay, these things aren't like some extraterrestrial lightsabers at all. They're metal claws.
Yep.
Make them real, like the other movies did. So there's a part in the movie where he is completely destroying this fire escape, and it's just some of the cartooniest special effects I have seen in a mainstream movie. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not exaggerating. This is the worst CGI that I've seen in like the past decade or so. And yeah, I mean, there's some other practical effects which I thought, okay, weren't that bad. But this was just, oh my god, how did anyone approve this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think in terms of special effects I was quite as hard as a lot of other people on this. There were definitely some sketchy things in it, I recall, like Tyler was talking about. But I remember, like, the actual color hue of the film and some of the shot compositions, even though some of the scenes were very over the top and cartoony. Thinking it was pretty cool, at least for the action bits. But yeah, there was definitely, I think, more than any other X-Men movie, probably to date, really. There was kind of that sense of wacky cartoonishness in this one.
Well, except for X-Men: The Last Stand.
I was thinking that's the exception, but even there, I mean, I think they at least tried to be a little more serious about it.
Yeah, but it's hard when you have Brett Ratner directing it. He usually directs comedies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, the CG is mixed. I mean, sometimes it looks okay, but other times with the claws, it just looked like no better than the 90s X-Men cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should focus on the cast next. We should talk about the mutants now. One of them is a teleporter played by Will.i.am, and I hate it when they get singers as actors because they're just there for, oh yeah, marketing team, we're gonna cast this person because they're popular at the time. And it's like, you take jobs away from more qualified people who need this job and the money more than you do.
Mm-hmm.
And Will.i.am's not that good of an actor.
I agree. I generally think throwing musicians into acting roles like this tends to be a disaster. There are a few exceptions, like for example, Jared Leto.
Well, he goes back and forth.
Yeah, he's kind of on my meh part of it. He's not terrible, but he's not always good, and there are a couple others. Personally, I think the one that's jumping out to me was T.I. in Ant-Man. To me, that wasn't too ridiculous because he was just kind of a friend of the side character and was in the background. That, had an attitude that was noticeable.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, in the spotlight like a lot of these other people demand to be the main character, like Justin Timberlake or something. Cringe, just that's not okay in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we also had Gavin Rossdale, the lead singer of Bush and Constantine, as one of the villains in that movie. And also, I think in Bram Stoker's Dracula, I'm forgetting his name, but the actor who played Renfield is a musician, but he did a good job in that. And also, Gwen Stefani had a cameo in The Aviator. I forget what actress she was portraying, but it was kind of a very brief moment, which I thought, okay, you look like this person, so I'm fine with that.
Gotcha.
So then there's also this other mutant that Wolverine kind of has an affair with, or actually is dating. Her name is Lynn Collins. Remember she was in John Carter?
Yeah, she was cute. I remember that.
Yeah, I almost called her Lily Collins, but that's a different one. And it's like, there's a story where she's saying like, oh, and this one guy liked the moon. And I think the guy was like Kafuku or whatever. But then this trickster guy tricked the guy. And at the end, she was trying to tell a moral of the story. And Hugh Jackman's like, oh, sounds like Cuckoo for Chew got screwed. And I guess half the audiences feel this way about this movie, about their origin on Wolverine.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. There are things we kind of want to make fun of, but beyond, some of the ridiculous editing, like, I'm remembering as soon as the name X-Men Origins Wolverine is mentioned, I instantly think of the shot of him propelling himself off of a motorcycle.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Helicopter.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool / cheesy. Like it was a balance that I think is kind of encompassing of the movie. You know that they tried, but you know.
Let's see, other kind of characters we want to talk about. Like, we had Daniel Henney as Agent Zero because I guess he doesn't miss. But I would like to see, well, this is taking place before that movie, but I would like someone to make a joke like, oh yeah, so how does it feel like to be named after Jack Skellington's dog? And then we also have Taylor Kish as Gambit in the movie, and I felt like he did an okay job.
Yeah, he was fine. Gambit was there for, people joke, or not even joke, but about like how DC in, Batman vs. Superman had a, quote, shameless cameo of Wonder Woman. And, there's whatever to that.
Well, kind of shoehorned. Kind of like how Spider-Man was kind of shoehorned in Civil War.
I guess so, yeah. But
I mean, well, Gambit had a purpose in the plot. Like, he was the one who helped Wolverine find out where the base was at because he escaped from that base. So he was figuring, okay, this guy could take me to there.
Right. Yeah, I guess my feeling generally was he kind of fell into that role of kind of, overly, generic. We could have seen better, but it could have been worse. So,
ironically, him and Lynn Collins were in John Carter.
Yeah, that's right.
Just kind of funny. But anyway, I think the topping on the cake of the X-Men characters we should talk about, or at least the mutants in the movie, is Ryan Reynolds as questionably Deadpool.
Cringe hard.
I always thought he looked like Baraka from Mortal Kombat because he had like the shaved head and the blades are coming out of the wrists and that.
He did, and the fact that someone legitimately writing, I think it was the script or maybe it was even on set, they decided to do a character change about Deadpool and basically, how about we cover his mouth so he can't talk? Who is the idiot who needs to be beaten for that decision? Like,
probably the same screenwriter who wrote. There's a line in one of Nostalgia Critic's recent reviews for The Smurfs 2. There's a joke where apparently one of the characters turned to a duck or a goose, and the goose is, or a duck, or whatever, is freeing all these other birds, and he's like, free, and then the other guy says, who do you think you are, Martin Luther Wing? And I was thinking to myself,
oh no.
If Martin Luther King came back from the dead and violently stabbed that screenwriter to death,
deserved.
I don't think anyone should press charges.
No, absolutely. That was a horrific death of a joke. Yeah, Deadpool, I remember it was like, for me who tends to be pretty forgiving of, the occasional flaw in a movie.
Yeah, comic book changes and,
adaptation.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
This to me was like, no. This was like, you've turned Deadpool into borderline the equivalent of Bane in Batman and Robin, where Poison Ivy was.
Yeah, you can sum up Bane with Bane, go do this. Okay.
Yeah.
That I pretty much that's all Bane's character is. I mean, I would actually compare. I mean, at least he looked like Bane.
Mm.
But the thing was that I compared this Deadpool, this butchering up the character, the worst since Halle Berry's Catwoman in Catwoman.
I think that's a fair comparison overall. And I would, argue that Ryan Reynolds does too, from the things he put in, or had put in Deadpool. So,
yeah, I mean, at least that movie's forgiven now,
yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
And didn't you say that Danny Hudson's a favorite actor of yours?
Danny Hudson? Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah, he's the main villain in this movie.
He is, in my opinion, one of the actors/actresses that kind of just fell off the face of the earth, and it's a real shame because I would really like to see him in more important roles. He's just got a look and a presence. You can call it a typecast, I guess, but I don't really see it as a typecast because it's so open that you could use him as a villain, a dynamic, hero, a parental figure, an authoritative figure. I just really like him, and if I were to direct a movie, he's one of the people I'd want on my roster because I really think he is a underappreciated actor.
And Javier Bardem, I guess, for you.
Yeah, I will say at least for him, he agreed to. Well, I mean, he was in Skyfall, which I know Tyler wasn't a fan of, but
Yeah.
he's also in the new
Pirates of the
Pirates
Caribbean
of the
movie.
Caribbean. So he's getting out there a little more
Yeah.
again.
Also,
but-
Danny Hudson's gonna be in the Wonder Woman movie.
that's right. I had forgotten about that. So
I don't
that'll
know
be
what
nice.
he's playing, but maybe he's Ares. I don't know.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
yeah, definitely.
So anyway, before we wrap this up, I want to say that yeah, I thought it was really cool in the movie when Wolverine gets injected with kind of these, the adamantium. I thought okay, him like popping out, I'm like okay, that was really cool because we saw these brief flashbacks in the other Wolverine, X-Men movies before.
Mm-hmm. Let me also say about I think it was Liev Schreiber who
Schreiber, I don't know.
who was he was the
Sabretooth,
right? Yeah, I will say one of the few redeeming things about this, the 2000 X-Men's version of Sabretooth was garbage. He was just not good and a beat stick. And
Well, he
this-
was more true and he looked more like the Sabretooth in the comics.
That's fine, but you can look away and still have your character be crap. And Liev Schreiber, to me, he personally felt like, yeah, this is Sabretooth. This I can literally see being, Sabretooth in relation to Hugh Jackman. And so I definitely liked that role. There were plenty of roles that were questionable, but to me, that was one of the decisions that was like, yeah, thumbs up on that one. That was a good one.
I'm just kind of iffy about it for myself. So, what would you give this movie, Steven?
Oh boy, what would I give this movie? This one personally, I fight a little bit back and forth on because it's definitely on the hate spectrum for a lot of people, and I don't hate it, but I don't like it. I think something in the area of like 70 to 71% is about what I'd give it.
Okay, like a very low C.
Yeah, I mean it technically passes,
Okay.
but
All right, so personally for myself, I think this movie is just a mixed bag. I mean, yeah, it was kind of a letdown of a movie, but it's not like the worst X-Men movie out there. I think The Last Stand is worse. Because that one was like so much expectations were high and it was a big letdown for what they did with it and that. I mean, this one, okay, bad CG at times and kind of disappointing on some aspects, but overall I thought it was okay. But anyway, I think X-Men Origins Wolverine, not the best they could have done with the character of Wolverine, but I would say it was I think that best describes it. So for X-Men Origins Wolverine, I would give it about 2 stars out of 4.
sure, yeah.
Okay. The guy who directed this movie was Gavin Hood, who directed Ender's Game and Eye in the Sky. So I haven't seen Eye in the Sky, but Ender's Game was kind of better than this one.
I agree.
At least the CG was better.
I hadn't read the book of Ender's Game, and that may have been part of it, but the twist towards the end and stuff I thought was effective, and yeah, that was pretty good.
So we get to our next movie called The Wolverine. Now, The Wolverine this time is directed by James Mangold, and he directed movies like, I think 310 at
310 to Yuma?
Yeah, 310 to Yuma, and then he also directed Night and Day. He's directing the next Wolverine movie, Logan, but watching this movie, I'm like, hey, not bad for the guy who directed Girl Interrupted. Just kidding, that movie's not that bad.
I guess. I haven't seen that personally, but...
I think Angelina Jolie won an Oscar for that movie,
Gotcha.
but I have to check that again.
And her lips for special effects. Those things stand out.
No, they're all natural, Matt. Alright, so back to the movie itself. So The Wolverine takes place after the events of X-Men The Last Stand, where Wolverine, played again by Hugh Jackman, is having nightmares about what he did to Jean Grey. It's kind of like how Hugh Jackman has nightmares about doing the Last Stand movie, I would say.
I shouldn't have taken that role.
Yeah. Yeah, but then also he gets asked by this woman named Yuriko, played by Rilla Fukushima. I don't know. I didn't proofread these first before doing this review, folks. Sorry if I misspelled and mispronounced anything. And I would have to say that she, convinces him to go to Japan to meet this one wealthy Japanese guy who a while back he saved back in World War II when a nuclear bomb dropped. And he's like, I owe you my life, and I want to make you mortal now because I need your healing factor.
And you want to be mortal, right? Like, that was the other thing, is he wants to be normal again.
Well, Logan was never normal to begin with.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
he wants to get rid of his mutant power.
He wanted to be able to die because he outlived so many people he loved and stuff, so...
Yeah, so he's like, I don't know. So then later, his powers start to slowly disappear from him. And he's protecting this other woman named Maruko, played by Akitomo.
Akamoto.
Mercy from Batman vs. Superman.
Yeah.
So he's trying to figure out how to get rid of this bug that's been eating away his mutant power, as well as trying to protect Murako and so on. And I would just think that this movie is better than X-Men Origins Wolverine because the effects are better, but I don't think it's a huge improvement over the last one.
I agree. Generally, I agree. It was a slight improvement, but it wasn't leaps and bounds. And even the effects to me were kind of okay for the time, because, like, things even around that time period, to me, like, the gold standards for special effects tend to be either, something practical effect wise or, special effect wise. Transformers, just gonna throw that out there.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars too. Avatar, yes and no, because there are some things that
I'm mixed
people
about
overlook.
that.
Yeah, like there's some things where you can tell they started filming in 2005 and stopped, and people just overlook it because it's James Cameron. But yeah, I thought that the effects were okay on this one. I get the feeling a little less good than Tyler thought they were, but...
Well, I thought that nuclear bomb explosion was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you think about it, that makes no sense because in X-Men Origins Wolverine, he was storming the beaches of D-Day in Europe, but so how is he in Japan as a prisoner now in the Pacific Front at two completely opposite fronts of World War II?
It was a rough commute.
He got reassigned, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway... they probably just want to forget about X-Men Origins Wolverine.
True, yeah.
I don't know, but... So then also we get introduced to... there's other characters in the movie. I mean, there's this villain named Viper, and played by Shavlita Kroldishki.
What the heck?
I am
Kojenkova.
Some Russian name.
Kojenkova, I think.
Some Russian name. I am being beaten silly by all these names right now.
Yeah, like, I swear, some, names, like last names in, like, Russian and stuff, it's literally like...
And Japanese.
Yeah, and Japanese. It's literally just like, let's throw as many vowels and random letters in as possible.
I mean, it's not as bad as, who's the actor who played Mr. Fantastic in the ones with Jessica Alba?
Oh, I don't remember his
Ian
name.
Grufford?
Ian Grufford?
Grufford or Grufford?
Grifford the
Grufford?
Clifford?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to call you Clifford.
Ian Clifford.
That sounds... to be honest, that sounds better.
Trending, yes.
Ian
Clifford.
Change his Wikipedia name page to Ian Clifford.
Ian, a.k.a. Big Red Dog, a.k.a. Mr. Fantastic. In that order. Clifford, then Mr. Fantastic.
Oh, that's... Alright, so back on track.
At some point.
Okay, we're trying, folks. We're trying to get back to the review. Okay. Okay. The villain in this movie is Viper. She's pretty much a mutant who has kind of a healing factor like Wolverine and also can poison people. And I like how CinemaSins pointed out in his video of this movie, he called her Discount Poison Ivy. And like, that is so true because she's not only wearing an all green suit, but the way she acts, like, especially in, like, you know, Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And then he adds a clip where it's like a clip from Batman and Robin where Poison Ivy says her line, like, yeah, this is pretty much Poison Ivy. Mike Marvel's Poison Ivy, pretty much.
Yep.
And also we have, I'm trying to remember if this was the actor who plays this Archer character. His name is Shingen, or...
Yeah, Shingen or Shinjin.
Yeah, I don't know which actor it is. I'm trying to remember which actor it was, but I call him like the discount Hawkeye because of how many times he was shooting bows and arrows in that.
Guns are overrated.
But anyway, I feel like one really cool part in this movie was when he fights like a bunch of ninjas.
Mm-hmm.
But that fight was way too short because in the uncut version, it was a lot more violent. And like, you should just put this in the movie.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, that would have been awesome in that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, sadly they cut it short for content and the whole, you know, PG-13 rating.
Cringe. Yeah, that is something we can thank Deadpool and maybe Logan, we'll see, about...
Hopefully.
You know, a starting trend of more R movies. Of course, it technically started before then. I'm not going to be a Marvel dick writer.
At least comic book.
Yeah, and pretend that, you know, other things weren't first. Like, there was The Crow a long time ago. There was...
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's a
Watchmen.
superhero. Mm-hmm.
Watchmen, to me, is, like, the big one that jumps out before that. But
yeah, probably the highest quality of R-rated comic book movies, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and then I'm trying to remember who plays him, but it turns out this one guy is the Silver Samurai. And from what I remember from the X-Men cartoon show from the 90s, that's not Silver Samurai. Okay, Silver Samurai wasn't this Transformer thing that was big in that. It's like, okay, Silver Samurai could like teleport and do this other stuff. He was a lot more deadlier than the one from the movie.
yeah, unused Transformers The Last Night prop is
the last
basically the villain.
The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
I mean, I also liked in this movie they did have cameos from Famke Jensen as Jean Grey because he has traumatic nightmares of having to kill her because she was the Dark Phoenix, which, you know, that movie, The Last Stand, really butchered up the Dark Phoenix saga as well as I think it was the Days of Future Past saga or Apocalypse saga.
Yeah.
Hopefully the new franchise does that much better.
I agree. It was weird because, like, at the same time, that whole arc, it was I hate that it happened, but I'm glad it happened at the same time because at least we saw something. But then again, it was like it was done wrong, so I'm not that grateful. So I don't know. It was a tough balance for me personally.
In X-Men Apocalypse, it was done much better.
Oh, yeah.
Because we actually saw the Phoenix thing and burning. I mean, the Phoenix wasn't about turning people into a bunch of confetti in, like, The Last Stand, which we saw.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That, in X-Men Apocalypse, it was definitely handled better. Lots of hate for that movie for
and there was less
good
time
reason.
And there was less time on the Phoenix, too. And she wasn't even, like, the main part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
yeah, that did it much better.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, this movie is definitely very Japanese-like. I think another standout moment in this movie is when, you know, he's about to, you know, die in that, and suddenly he gets his powers back, and he's, like, being slashed by one of the villains in the movie, and he's about to stab him, like, what monster are you? I'm the Wolverine. Roll credits.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I thought, you know, that was cool. I think this movie was loosely based off the Frank Miller graphic novel of Wolverine, or... At least when he worked out, I don't know if he wrote and illustrated. He did one of those too. But yeah, this was loosely based off of that.
I haven't heard about that.
I think we can all agree that the best scene in the entire movie is the bullet train scene.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely seeing, you know, him fighting these people, and it's like really intense. Everything's like going really fast. And he's like jumping at people, like, you!
Yes.
And like doing that.
Moments. I love that.
Make that a meme, 2017. Yes. That song is a decade old now.
A decade old. Let's make it trend, boys and girls.
What about a movie where every time someone jumps in the air or flies in the air, it says you, and it gets faster? You. you.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what movies would do that.
Well, I mean, anything with Superman.
Yeah.
Because he's always flying, just you.
Yeah, remember the Hey Ya by Outkast?
Yeah.
It's like, all right. He just like
Speeds
ends.
up every time he says all right.
Yeah. But anyway, so what would you give this movie, Steven?
This movie, I remember hearing somewhat better things about it than X-Men Orange's Tangerine, and so I was optimistic, and I was let down by it, but it was still technically better. So let's think about this. I would probably give this somewhere in the area of like 75 to 77%, personally.
Okay, I can understand that. The one thing I notice about Wolverine in general is the fact that what kind of makes Marvel characters, especially in the newer ones when they're going about how they were kind of relatable to readers in a way. Like Spider-Man's relatable because he had real problems of having to deal with school and a job and taking care of Aunt May.
And he has to control his power to shoot white loads on girls.
Oh God, see, no. We'll save that for a Spider-Man review later sometime.
Puberty, but...
And then, Bruce Banner has to deal with anger issues. And then Captain America has to deal with being out of place in a different time period. With Wolverine, it recently occurred to me that Wolverine is the first superhero, I think, that deals with PTSD.
Yeah.
Because he constantly has, nightmares of waking up screaming and pain from all the things he's faced in his lifetime. More pain than I think anyone has faced in their entire lifetime, I would have to say. And this movie kind of did that a little bit, I would say, captured in a way which I did like. But also, the effects are kind of better. But again, they mishandle a lot of stuff from the source material. And although it is slightly better than the last one, X-Men Origins Wolverine, I would say it's not really that good of a movie. It's not as good as the recent standalone X-Men movies we've seen. Mm-hmm. And there was a deleted scene in this movie where they hinted at him wearing the costume.
That was cool. I liked that.
And I'm thinking to myself, they better have that in the Logan movie.
Yes.
I want to see, Hugh Jackman put on the Wolverine costume.
Absolutely.
Not, the spandex stuff that we saw, like the, Matrix leather black.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that, yellow and black, Wolverine costume.
I agree.
And that. Make it happen. Please make it happen. If you are, just keep it a secret. Don't spoil it.
Yep, absolutely.
I think I'll be applauding if that happens. I'll be clapping wildly when that happens.
As long as it doesn't look atrocious for some reason. But I think they'll make it, if they do that, pretty decent at least. So
yeah.
I hope that happens too.
Yeah. So overall, I would give the Wolverine about 2.5 stars out of 4.
All right. Round of applause.
Yeah, can you imagine if he was Santa Claus?
Yeah, I can.
He'd be giving off cigars and hard whiskey and that.
He would. Kids, get the hell out of here before I scratch your eyes out.
I liked his cameo. I liked his cameo in X-Men First Class when he was at the bar.
Yes.
And like, hey, I think it's Hugh Jackman's reaction for him wanting to do another X-Men Origins Wolverine sequel.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the reaction.
So anyway, this is Tyler from EndCreditReviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
And we hope you enjoyed this episode of Unscripted. We hope you enjoyed this, and we're looking forward to making more in the future. Please like and subscribe.
And we're looking forward to Logan.
Yeah, we definitely are. We'll definitely review that one, as well as Kong Skull Island that comes out the week after, which I'm like, how come that has to come out within a week? Because it's going to be a very hectic schedule, because I also want to review the King Kong movies, but I'll make it work. I'll make it happen. So we'll find out, folks. See you soon. Bye. Excuse me, this is a burp. I'll edit that out.
That's his superpower, folks. He's gaseous.
We'll put that at the end.
Yeah.